Hello, you're watching A News. I'm Lee Brown. Here are your top stories. French President Macron reappoints Lecornu as Prime Minister. Trump threatens to impose an additional 100% tariff on China. And a blast at a Tennessee plant leaves 19 missing, possibly dead. Good afternoon. In a shock U-turn, French President Emmanuel Macron has reappointed Sébastien Lecornu as Prime Minister on Friday. Lecornu, whose resignation was accepted on Monday, just weeks after he took office, is now tasked with forming a new cabinet, Macron's office said in a statement. His return came as a surprise, as he said on national TV only 2 days ago he was not chasing the job and his mission is over. It is not even certain he'll be able to form a new government, but he will have to hit the ground running. The new Prime Minister faces a deadline on Monday to put next year's budget before Parliament. Turning to the war in Ukraine, Russia launched massive overnight missiles and drone strikes, cutting power in Kyiv and 8 other regions. At least 5 people were killed and 17 others were injured. Officials report that over 1 million homes and businesses lost power and Kyiv's metro system was disrupted. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia deliberately timed the attack during bad weather to reduce air defensive effectiveness by 20 to 30%. He added that over 200 energy facilities now require protection and urged allies to increase support ahead of winter. By Saturday, authorities confirmed that power had been restored to most of Kyiv and some nearby areas. Now, Israeli troops have begun withdrawing from parts of Gaza under a US-brokered ceasefire and hostage deal aimed at ending more than 2 years of war. The truce, proposed by President Trump, took effect at 12 noon local time as displaced Palestinians began returning home.
The Israeli and Hamas approved first phase of a ceasefire and hostage exchange deal means that the Israeli forces have begun withdrawing from parts of the Gaza Strip. The deal is aimed at ending more than 2 years of conflict. The agreement, proposed by US President Donald Trump and finalized after intensive talks in Egypt, took effect at noon Friday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed the agreement as one of our greatest achievements and thanked Trump for his world leadership.
I thought that if we add massive political pressure by our great friend President Trump to our great military pressure, this powerful combination will make Hamas bring back all of our hostages while the IDF remains deep in the Gaza Strip and holds all its controlling areas. And this is what is happening.
Under the deal, Hamas has 72 hours to release the remaining Israeli hostages and return the bodies of others, while Israel will free around 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees. Hundreds of aid trucks carrying food, fuel and medical supplies are expected to enter Gaza daily. A 200-member multinational monitoring force coordinated by the US, but without American troops on the ground, will oversee the ceasefire. In Gaza, thousands of displaced families have started moving north as Israeli tanks withdraw.
Today, there was some withdrawal by the Israeli army, and we returned to where we used to live, hoping the places still exist. We are searching for at least a mattress or a pillow because winter is coming. I think I will not find anything with this level of destruction.
I hope the war will not return, God willing. But what was lost will not return, as well as the martyrs who were lost.
The ceasefire marks the first stage of Trump's broader 20-point peace plan, which envisions Gaza's demilitarization, reconstruction, and eventual transfer of governance to a reformed Palestinian Authority. Whether the fragile truce will hold remains to be seen.
Well, helping us to unpack the latest on the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas and what the next steps could look like is Ori Goldberg, Middle East expert calling from Tel Aviv. Ori, thank you very much for joining us. I just want to start by asking, do we expect this ceasefire to last? Do both Hamas and Israel trust each other to follow the next steps? And why couldn't this be agreed sooner?
Well, to answer your last question first, of course it could have been agreed sooner. This deal has been on the table for at least 6 months, perhaps even more. Excuse me. Hamas and Israel don't trust each other, but that may actually be the cause for cautious optimism. This isn't a deal that was made because of strategic considerations or some sort of absolute commitment to international morals. This is a deal that is a convergence of interests, Israeli interests, Hamas interests, but also American, Turkish, European, and other powerful players. And because of these converging interests, there's reason to assume that as long as everybody gets what they bargained for, this ceasefire may last. It seems like there's a dynamic in place. This doesn't look like March did when the last ceasefire was agreed upon and then broken by Israel unilaterally. We don't quite know what to expect. The 20-point plan is as vague as it is cumbersome, but it stands to reason that both sides have reached the end of their rope and are willing to entertain various notions of moving forward, as long as each side is allowed to present whatever they're doing as a victory.
I would agree with your point there that this is different to the last ceasefire. And one of those points is the US is forming a multinational task force to monitor the ceasefire, which is likely to include troops from Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, the UAE, etc. How significant is that move, and what role will it play realistically?
I think it could be very significant. Even as a symbolic gesture, it's significant. For example, take the Turkish contingent of such a force. It would have to establish presence in the Israeli port city of Ashdod, which was one of the most frequently bombed by Hamas rockets at the initial stages of this quote-unquote war. And now the Turks will be there, and relations between Israel and Turkey will have to resume. There have been no flights between Israel and Turkey for more than 2 years. Level of diplomatic relations has been degraded. Things are going to have to start moving in order for any kind of collaboration to function even partially smoothly. So I believe this will have real effect, and it will mostly have real effect on Israel, because the presence of all of these players constrains Israel's ability, the one it has been so eager to defend, to act at will and at any level or intensity it wants. Israel, even if only logistically, by proxy, not overtly, Israel does not enjoy the full impunity it enjoyed before this deal was signed.
And Donald Trump, staying on the latest, says he'll meet leaders in Cairo to discuss Gaza's future. What do we know about the sticking point, especially when it comes to Hamas's disarmament and who governs Gaza next?
There are as many sticking points as you'd like if you don't want the deal to go through, but this isn't about any particular point. There are ways around each one of these obstacles. Hamas could be integrated into Fatah, could, as one of its leaders suggested today or yesterday, give its weapons to the Palestinian security forces. There are any number of ways to get around any of these obstacles. It's all about political resolve. It's about an understanding that this deal offers not just the best way forward, but the only way for the current leaderships to remain relevant. That's true for Netanyahu as much as it is for the leadership of Hamas and for the Palestinian Authority. For example, Palestinian Authority has been the most vocal, has proposed the most vocal objections to the release of Marwan Barghouti from Israeli jails, because Barghouti offers a real opposition to the Palestinian Authority just as much as to Hamas. So you can see that all sides have something to gain here. Probably most pertinent and most urgent is their political survival.
And lastly, we're starting to see some people return. I think the number came out today, 200,000 Palestinians returning to northern Gaza. How do they begin to rebuild amid the level of destruction?
That's probably the most urgent question of all. Reconstruction needs to begin, and it needs to begin yesterday. Even had it begun yesterday, it will last years and years before the structures Israel destroyed, and make no mistake, Israel destroyed Gaza intentionally, trying to make it uninhabitable. So before the Israeli destruction is rectified, it will be years and years. Camps will have to be set up. Infrastructure will have to be established that would allow Palestinians in Gaza a modicum of life. This will all take time, but it all needs to start. Palestinians will go back where they were, because right now, living among the ruins of Gaza City is no different than living in a would-be safe zone where Israel has the freedom to bomb them. At least in Gaza City, where there are or would-be concentrations of Palestinian civilians, they stand a chance of Israel making the smart choice not to bomb or not to kill them in order to live up to the conditions of the deal. So no immediate improvement in the state of Palestinians is expected, but again, these are dynamics that are expected to be generated right now, but to last years and years into the future.
That's certainly a long way back to some normalization. Thank you very much, Ori, for your insights today.
Thank you for having me.
Moving to the United States and China, where trade tensions are heating up once again as President Trump threatens sweeping new tariffs on Beijing, but this time with a massive tariff threat. He says the move is a response to Beijing tightening its grip on critical mineral exports.
US President Donald Trump has reignited the trade war with China, threatening to impose an additional 100% tariff on Chinese imports starting next month. The move comes after Beijing tightened its export controls on rare earth minerals, critical materials used in cars, smartphones, and advanced technology. In a series of social media posts, Trump accused China of taking an extraordinarily aggressive position and trying to hold the world captive by restricting the supply of key resources. Under the new measures, the US will add a 100% tariff on Chinese goods, on top of what they already pay now by the 1st of November. The changes could see the overall cost of Chinese goods in America rise by nearly a third compared with the start of the year. China, which dominates global production of rare earth elements, has not yet formally responded, but analysts warn the move could severely strain the fragile economic truce between the two powers. The leaders of both countries are expected to meet in South Korea this month, but it's now unclear whether those discussions will go ahead as planned.
Now, 19 people are missing and feared dead after a powerful explosion ripped through a military explosive facility in Tennessee. Authorities say the blast completely destroyed the building and left little behind. The explosion happened early Friday morning at Accurate Energetic Systems, about 50 miles west of Nashville. Officials say multiple fatalities are confirmed, though the exact number remains unclear. Humphreys County Sheriff Chris Davies said the building was obliterated, adding there's nothing to describe, it's gone. Investigators are working to determine what caused the blast. Staying in the US, protesters gathered on Friday outside an immigration and customs enforcement facility in Broadview, Illinois, opposing the government's immigration policies. Some protesters wore gas masks and raised their fists, refusing to leave despite police warnings. Police pushed back crowds blocking the facility's entrance, arresting several people. The protests come amid President Trump's Operation Midway Blitz, which has led to over 1,000 arrests since September the 8th. About 500 National Guard troops began deploying near Chicago on Wednesday, but a US judge blocked their deployment on Thursday until October the 23rd. Now, two powerful earthquakes struck off the southern Philippines on Friday, killing at least 7 people and triggering tsunami warnings. The largest earthquake, measuring 7.4 magnitude, caused widespread damage. Hospitals and schools were hit, with over 300 people treated for minor injuries. Classes were suspended in many schools, and parts of Davao City experienced power outages. Officials urged coastal residents to move to higher ground as rescue efforts and damage assessments continue. This follows a deadly 6.9 magnitude quake 2 weeks ago that killed 74 people on Cebu Island.
7.0.
Now, Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado has won this year's Nobel Peace Prize for her work promoting democratic rights. The award has drawn praise from international organizations, but also sparked some criticism from the White House.
The world is still searching for peace. But this year, the Nobel Committee has chosen its symbol. Maria Corina Machado, the Venezuelan opposition leader, receives the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize.
The Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 goes to a brave and committed champion of peace, to a woman who keeps the flame of democracy burning amidst a growing darkness.
Maria Corina Machado is one of Venezuela's most prominent opposition figures, a former lawmaker and long-time advocate for democracy and human rights. She has been a leading voice against President Nicolás Maduro's rule, calling for free and fair elections and a peaceful transition of power. Earlier this year, Machado was barred from running in Venezuela's presidential election, a move widely condemned by international observers. Despite governmental pressure and political persecution, she remains one of the strongest voices for peaceful change in the country. Machado has been forced to live in hiding since being barred from running in last year's election. Now the Nobel Committee says she is receiving the Nobel Peace Prize for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. The reactions to Maria Corina Machado's Nobel Peace Prize show widespread support on the international stage. The UN Human Rights Office said the prize reflects the clear aspirations of the people of Venezuela for free and fair elections.
We congratulate Maria Corina Machado on being announced as the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. This recognition reflects the clear aspirations of the people of Venezuela for free and fair elections, for civil and political rights, and for the rule of law.
European Union Chief Ursula von der Leyen also celebrated Machado's win, praising not only her courage, but every voice that refuses to be silenced. Meanwhile, in the United States, the White House expressed a different reaction. Spokesperson Stephen Chung criticized the Nobel Committee for not awarding the prize to President Donald Trump. The timing of the announcement, coinciding with the Gaza ceasefire, has fueled debate over whether Trump's efforts were overlooked.
Earlier, we were joined by John Kavalich in New York, who said the Nobel Committee recognized Machado's resilience and moral courage, noting her humility, empathy and determination to challenge Venezuela's government despite scarce resources, making her award a tribute to perseverance over power. Let's see more.
You know, she has a history and there's a continuity in what she does. And she's shown humility, she's shown character, she's shown empathy, and she's shown an ability to not have resources and still face an unbelievably resilient government in terms of that one run by Nicolás Maduro. And so that gives the Nobel Committee, a trajectory to look at. And as far as, or instead of a moment, it's a series of moments. And she, has been resilient, and it has been a part of a process that's continued to unfold. And that's what they were recognizing, that this isn't someone who has a tremendous amount of resources at their disposal and then using those resources to force an outcome. This is someone who didn't have resources, who has to convince people to take a chance in spite of what's going to be a response from a sitting government, pretty much knowing the outcome before she began, but she still perseveres. And so it was basically recognizing her character.
Now, leaders of the Commonwealth of Independent States met in Dushanbe on Friday, with Tajikistan's president chairing the summit. The main outcome of the summit was the CIS Plus partnership platform, while discussions focused on key regional issues.
Top officials from Commonwealth of Independent States gathered in Dushanbe for strategic discussions. The talks focused on strengthening regional security, energy cooperation, and counter-terrorism efforts. The meeting was attended by the heads of state of Azerbaijan, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, as well as CIS Secretary General Sergei Lebedev. A total of 19 documents were signed following the meeting, including a declaration on cooperation in ensuring regional energy security. Member states also adopted long-term strategies, including a military cooperation plan and a declaration on energy security. One key outcome was Kazakhstan's proposal for a new CIS Plus partnership platform to expand collaboration with other nations and international organizations. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev expressed gratitude for Lachin being named this year's cultural capital of the CIS, highlighting the city's rapid restoration and rich cultural heritage.
Выражаю благодарность главам государств СНГ за поддержку кандидатуры города Лачин.
I express my gratitude to the CIS heads of state for supporting the candidacy of the city of Lachin in Azerbaijan's East Zangezur region as the cultural capital of the CIS for this year. In June of this year, Lachin hosted the opening ceremony of the Year of the CIS Cultural Capital, during which information about the history and cultural heritage of this ancient Azerbaijani land was presented. Guests of the event witnessed firsthand the rapid revival of Lachin following its liberation from 30 years of Armenian occupation. A city that was completely destroyed has, in just a few years, transformed into one of the most beautiful and livable cities.
While Armenia's Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan touched on the importance of peace and regional connectivity, highlighting new transport links within the CIS.
I am pleased to note that after a long conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, peace has been established. The Trump route will allow Armenia to have railway and other transport links with the CIS member states. This will help strengthen economic ties within the Commonwealth and increase its efficiency, opening up new export and import opportunities for the organization.
Economic partnership and trade were also among the focal points of the summit, as President Putin emphasized that deeper economic ties among CIS members could unlock vast regional potential and strengthen mutual resilience.
Last year, Russia's trade turnover with the Central Asian states, the Five, exceeded $45 billion. In general, this is a good result. So our trade turnover with Belarus exceeds $50 billion. And I will remind you that Belarus' population is 10 million people, Uzbekistan is almost 40 million, Tajikistan is over 10 million, and Kazakhstan is over 20 million. Just imagine, not to mention other countries, what a colossal resource. And this means there are also good prospects for developing our economic relations.
The next meeting of the CIS Council of Heads of State is expected to be held in Turkmenistan in October 2026. Sergei Lebedev will continue his tenure as CIS Secretary General for the next 3 years.
Turning to Central Asia, Uzbekistan is getting ready to launch a new phase in its energy partnership with Russia. Both sides plan to sign a contract for the construction of the country's first large-scale nuclear power plant by March 2026. Our correspondent, Sevil Rajapova, has more from Tashkent.
Uzbekistan and Russia are advancing plans to build the country's first nuclear power plant. The plant will be located in the Far East district of Jizakh region and is expected to become one of the largest infrastructure projects in the country's modern history. The project includes 4 reactors, 2 large-scale capacity VVER 1000 units of the latest generation, and 2 smaller RITM 200N reactors, each producing around 55 megawatts of electricity. Construction is expected to begin shortly after the contract is finalized, with development to proceed in several stages. Authorities claim the project will prioritize local involvement. Up to 70% of the workforce and contractors will be from Uzbekistan, creating around 20,000 new jobs. Alongside the plant, supporting infrastructure such as housing, schools and public facilities will be developed in surrounding areas. For reference, gas supply from Russia to Central Asia, including Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, have risen up by about 15% in the first 8 months of 2025, compared to the same period in 2024. Also in 2024, Gazprom delivered 5.64 billion cubic meters of gas to Uzbekistan, up from 1.28 billion in 2023. Experts believe the nuclear power will complement these efforts by diversifying Uzbekistan's energy mix, reducing reliance on imported fuel, and ensuring a more stable power supply for industries and households alike. Irisivil Vajapov reporting from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, A News.
Now, Baku is set to host a meeting next week between Azerbaijan, Iran and Russia. The delegations will discuss the development of the international north-south transport corridor, focusing on boosting traffic flows, streamlining procedures and enhancing energy cooperation. Our correspondent Turaj Shilalilu reports.
The International North-South Transport Corridor is a 7,200-kilometer long route consisting of road, rail and sea, and it moves freight between Azerbaijan, Central Asia, Europe, India, Iran and Russia. It therefore increases connectivity between Mumbai, Bandar Abbas, Bandar Anzali, Baku, Astrakhan and Moscow. On Monday, a two-day meeting in Baku will bring together Azerbaijani, Iranian and Russian representatives to exchange views on projects relating to the completing of the corridor, according to the director at the Iranian Ministry of Road and Urban Development. Amin Tarafo says the meeting will discuss increasing transport capacity, how to accelerate the movement of trucks, and simplify and streamline customs procedures. He also mentioned that the delegates will discuss the energy corridor to connect their country's energy networks. Local news media in Azerbaijan, quoting Cabinet of Ministers, said the talks will focus on strengthening cooperation in the fields of transport, logistics, energy and customs. The delegations will be led by Deputy Prime Minister of Azerbaijan, Shahin Mustafayev, Iranian Minister of Transport and Urban Development, Farzaneh Sadegh, and Deputy Prime Minister of Russia, Alexei Overchuk. Iran's Sadegh and Azerbaijan's Mustafayev last met in Tehran in September. They co-chair the Azerbaijan-Iran Joint Economic Cooperation Commission. The Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said that Tehran is interested in expanding its relations with Baku in all political, economic and cultural fields. He made the comment during a meeting with the Deputy Prime Minister of Azerbaijan last month. President Pezeshkian also came to Baku on a state visit back in April, where Mustafayev said that President Aliyev had asked him to emphasize on the agenda the serious and diligent implementation of agreements that were reached during the visit. Turaj Shilalilu in Tehran, A News TV.
Kazakhstan's president has urged countries in the region to join forces in tackling urgent environmental challenges. He stressed the importance of protecting the Caspian Sea's water resources, which are rapidly shrinking and putting local ecosystems and communities at risk. Fariza Kalimozina reports.
Kazakhstan's president is calling for urgent action to save the Caspian Sea. Water levels in the world's largest enclosed body of water are rapidly declining, a crisis that, according to Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, requires immediate intervention. Speaking at the Second Central Asia-Russia summit in Dushanbe, President Tokayev stressed that implementing the interstate program for the preservation of Caspian water resources must become a top priority for all countries in the region. President Tokayev says Central Asian countries face unprecedented environmental challenges, requiring coordinated government action. He highlighted the urgent need to address the worsening state of transboundary rivers in the Caspian Sea. He also proposed the coordinated interstate program and the creation of a Council of Ministers for Environmental Affairs with Central Asian states and Russia to better manage regional ecological risks. The Caspian region is facing a serious environmental crisis. Wildlife is dying in large numbers, pollution is spreading, and local communities are under growing pressure. All of this is caused by the sharp drop in water levels, and today the Caspian Sea has fallen below its lowest recorded level, now measuring less than -29 meters according to the Baltic Height system. In Kazakhstan, which borders 29% of the Caspian coastline, is witnessing severe shrinkage in the northeastern part of the sea. Since 2001, the shoreline has receded by over 37 kilometers. And increasingly, there are fears that the Caspian could face the same devastating fate as the Aral Sea. Fariza Kalimurzina, Almaty, A-News.
Thank you for joining me. That's your news update for now. Make sure you stay tuned to A News for more.